Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, and of course, every Wednesday we are joined by the lovely Coach Dezi, and we're going over all things pertaining to 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, and a certain somebody who we've touched on Locked On 49ers, who has correctly predicted every single game this year for the 49ers. And I'm not just talking about like when the game is coming up, predicting if the 49ers will win or lose. I'm talking about in the preseason, correctly predicting every game, which to me, especially the further you get into the season, is remarkable. All right, but we'll get to all that and more. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. I see Eddie in the chat. He says, I'm outside getting his cardio in. Let's go. I see the caretaker said, just make sure you're good. Talking to my guy, Eddie. Let's go. Khalil Young with the Flames. All right, everybody feeling good this morning. Let's go. All right, there we go. Manly Shavers, boom. Mr. Olight, boom. All right, Johnny, boom. Ricardo, all right, everybody feeling good. It's a little wet and rainy out here in Stockton, California, but we're gonna get it rocket today. See, I'm in my new beautiful home. It's not my home. It's a green screen. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen that on other people's stuff. Drum says, Crock, love the piano. Yeah, that's it. Oh man, that's a one state of the art one right there. All right. Of course, every show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. I ain't gonna lie, man. I always talk about Underdog Fantasy. I am making people a lot of money. I got DMs like, Croc, you made me $450 last night. Croc, you made me this. I'm on the heater right now. I've been winning every single week. Shout out to the, or I say every week, every night. All right. I'm winning money every single night. So Underdog has definitely been really good to me. If you want to get involved with that, download Underdog Fantasy or go to underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up, use promo code Crocky. All right. But yeah, on Twitter, if you are on Twitter at Eric_Crocker, go ahead and go to the subscriptions. Subscribe to the Twitter account. It's $5 a month, but I promise you it is worth it because we make money every single night. All right. So let's go. We got Manly Shavers and Chases. Croc, are you missing the South yet? I think there's always going to be a part of me that misses the South. Obviously, I love being in Stockton. I mean, this is where I'm from. So like it feels more like home. But my reasoning for leaving, I've talked about it before, and we'll get into it on a whole nother time. Because I didn't leave because I didn't like being there. You know what I'm saying? I left because it's just like, I had some responsibilities here in Cali. So I was like, okay, I got to just kind of get back to that. And originally the plan was never to stay in Arkansas, but so many things popped off for me. But it's all working out. Everything is great. I'm doing great here back at home. So it's what's up. All right. I got to ask you. Nicholas Winkler, he is a regular guest on Locked On 49ers. He comes on every Wednesday. All right, we actually record the episodes on Tuesday, so we already recorded it. Before the season, everybody does these preseason predictions like, all right, what games are you going to lose? What games are you going to win? More times than not, people it's kind of a throwaway episode typically, right? You do it because of interaction, engagement, whatever. The schedule comes out, and you kind of go through and you predict when the 49ers are going to lose, when they're going to win, etc. To me, I think the more important thing is kind of the overall record. Like, what record do you think they're going to have? And I'd say most people would say around 12-5 for the 49ers. Well, Nicholas Winkler went through and through 11 games has correctly predicted every single game. And I'm talking about from preseason. And I remember when he was like, the 49ers are going to win this game. And he's like, boom, he had the 49ers starting off 5-0. And then he's like, they're going to lose to Cleveland Browns. They're going to lose to Minnesota Vikings, and they're going to lose to the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm like, wait a minute. You got the 49ers winning 5 straight games and then losing 3 straight. And then he went on and he continued going. And he's like, then they're going to win this game. But then they're going to lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. But then it's like, they're going to win this game. Ultimately, he had the 49ers beating the Eagles in like the championship game and then going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. So he has the 49ers winning the Super Bowl, but he does have the 49ers losing this week. Again, he has been 100%. I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing. It's crazy, but it's kind of scary because the 49ers play Philly and he had them losing. What are your thoughts so far on what Winky has done correctly predicting all 11 games so far for the 49ers?
That's Winkster-Thomas. I mean, he's just been knocking it out of the park. And it was You're correct. Like every time you hear the preseason, oh, this is what this team's going to do. I mean, this is what this team's going to do. I mean, to nail it that early in the season, not knowing anything about any of the teams, anything else going on is pretty remarkable. I do a lot of March Madness. Like I love college hoops. And like every March Madness, you always see like that one bracket. There's like one bracket that gets through the entire bracket with, nailing everything correctly. And you're always like, how does that person do it? That's literally how I feel about Wink's predictions this season. He's been killing it. So shout out to Nicholas Winker. He is on point. And I'm not mad about the overall outcome of his predictions. So let's go.
Yeah, it's been a while. And again, 49ers are in a really good spot. Like, if he is correct throughout the whole thing, and that's what he keeps telling, because people were mad at him during the 3-game losing streak. They're like, you said you predicted this, and it's your fault and stuff. And he's like, look, guys, if you love me during the 5-game winning streak, and then you love me, you hate me during the 3-game losing streak, but then you love me after that. You love me at the end when the 49ers are hoisting that Lombardi up. So
yeah.
He does have the 49ers winning it all. I am curious to see how this game turns out, because I want the 49ers to win so bad. Once guys start to talking trash, and this isn't because I see the Philly fans, oh, y'all still crying about this game, blah, blah. Like, no, dude, like, I love trash talk. It fires me up even more. So when I saw, why do I keep forgetting his name? The edge rusher out of Temple, drafted by Arizona Cardinals, played with the Panthers. Gosh, the one that hurt Brock Purdy. Yeah, Son Reddick. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. It's like I know everything about him. He was drafted as an outside linebacker, but it's like, is he an edge rusher? Is he not? He's an off-ball linebacker. They didn't know how to utilize him. I know everything about him, but I can't remember his name.
Quote.
Hassan Reddick, when he's coming out, and he's like, oh, man, just let the past talk, and he's blah, 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 blah. And for me, it's like, hell yeah, bro, you got every right. You have every right to talk your trash, to all that. But it is going to fire me up. You know what I'm saying? It's going to fire me up. I hope it fires up the 49er players. And I think they have some players that are really going to be fired up. When you look at, and I bet when you see them come out the tunnel and they listen to the boombox, I think there's going to be a little extra energy. All right, I think Debo, Trent, you got Chase Young now leading kind of that whole group right there. So when you think about the 49ers versus the Eagles, what is the first thing that comes to mind in the sense of like maybe like a key to victory for the 49ers?
Well, I think the key is going to be defense. Solid. I mean, I think offensively, there's some matchups that are equal on both sides. I think, all things considered, I think it's going to come down to the defense, and not just defense. I think the Eagles have a stronger rush defense. It's their pass defense that's weak. So they're definitely going to make sure, for our side of it, I think Kyle Shanahan's really going to draft some things up that are going to get the ball in the air. Hopefully the weather permitting.
Right.
So that's another factor to consider, but I think it is going to come down to defense. The Eagles tend to come alive in that fourth quarter. So if we can really just put the nail in the coffin in that fourth quarter, man, y'all going to hear me all the way from Tampa. I'm going to be showing out. I'm not even going in public for this game. I cannot be in public for this game.
There's a 65% chance of rain in this game. How much do you think of an impact that will have on like the outcome of this game?
Oh, I think for San Francisco, for me as a fan watching, it's going to be a little nerve-wracking given what we've seen with Brock Purdy in the Cleveland game, right? So the wet ball gave him a little bit of trouble. He did find a way to rally and get us down to that final field goal that, also was missed, which you don't want to get moody in a situation where he's kicking in the rain. So it's tough. I would just, but if Wink's right, if all things happen, I still want that Super Bowl ring. So, but we got to get through this game. And I think it's going to come down to defense and potentially weather.
Being a mutter. That's what Steve Young calls it when the quarterback, is able to play in that type of weather. And Josh Allen, I just watched him against Philadelphia. He threw the ball 51 times.
Yep.
And I'm not going to lie, there were some big boy throws. And, when you're watching it, you kind of just kind of watching the game. But when you go back and there's like this Instagram account, and it's like Bill's Instagram, whatever. It's like one of those. And they're just showing all his like big time throws. He threw some balls where I'm like, how is he ripping it like that in the rain? I mean, just layering it over guys like on the line, right to I mean, just accurate. And it's like, man, his ability to throw in that type of weather. And again, that's when you start talking about just different capabilities, for a guy. He was letting it
Oh,
rip. No matter how wet that ball was or anything. So we will see if Brock Purdy in those type of elements, maybe he's a little bit more prepared to play in it than he was in Cleveland, because Cleveland was by far his worst game.
yeah,
And I would have to assume that some of it had to do with just the ball, the elements,
the
right? Like he
elements.
didn't just have a bad game because he had a bad game. As a matter of fact, we don't really see Brock Purdy have bad games. He might have a bad moment, but he
Right.
doesn't have games where he's throwing for 50% or something like that. Like those games just don't happen. More times than not, he's playing well, he's throwing the ball good. He even on that last drive that he led them to kick a field goal, like he threw a ball and hit a DB in the chest.
Yeah.
It was just way behind the receiver. So
Right.
he has to figure out a better way to perform in the elements, especially if the 65% rain holds true for them. We do have a super chat in here from my guy Damon. Shout out to Damon. He says a lot of QBs have their arm hit without serious injuries. Is Purdy's injury a fluke? Can you explain why his arm may actually get stronger? I'll address one part and then I'll let you talk about the other part. When with these quarterbacks, man, I mean, I don't know if it's matter of fact, you should just answer all this because it has to do with injury. Do you think it's a fluke that the way he got his arm hit and then the injury that happened from it? Because we do see guys get their arm hit, fumble the ball, and they might shake their arm a little bit, but for the most part, they're fine. Like you don't often see the injury that he got, right? It's kind of rare. It's not like as quarterbacks get their arms hit every game. And you don't see every game somebody tear their UCL or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So was it a fluke? We'll answer that part first.
I mean, it's a lot of injuries come down to timing, position, just kind of where he was in the process of the throw, where Hassan Riddick's arm ended up hitting him. It just kind of bad luck. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to.
All right. So now he also asked, can you explain why his arm may actually be getting stronger? Now again, I know I love Brock Purdy. I don't know if his arm is stronger. I think that with how he plays, it can appear that way. Like he plays very well with timing and rhythm. I don't think he like asked himself to make these throws where he has to rip a ball, 50 yards in the air on the line, right? Where you would like actually like need a big arm, like a power thrower. Like he'll never be considered a power thrower. But I think because of him being able to play with timing and rhythm, like he can rip a layered throw. I don't think that's necessarily like the arm strength aspect of it. I think it's more so like I'm an NFL quarterback. I can make these throws, and as long as timing and rhythm and everything like that, he could put a ball in a certain area where it's like, hey, that was a really good throw. That was a really good throw, But some of the throws, like again, I just talked about Josh Allen, and the way he was ripping it in the rain, like that's not quite Brock. So as far as having a stronger arm, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I think what I'm saying is just playing with great anticipation, throwing passes that are really good for him and understanding who he is and what he isn't. That's what it looks like to me. But again, I don't want to come off as like a hater or anything saying like, oh, he got a weenie arm. Like, nah, I think he's looking good the way he's throwing the ball. I
Yeah.
just don't know if his arm got stronger. But dude, maybe you see something different.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things to think about in this question, Damon, is that one, when you rehab something, you're rehabbing, your entire focus is that one aspect, right? Rehabbing that injury. And a lot of times you're going to be focused on that so much that you can come out a little bit stronger than you were going in just because of just hyper focus in that one area, right? If you're not injured, you're exercising everything. You might not be focusing so much on grip strength or finger strength and things that go along with rehabbing the elbow. So now you have nothing but focus on that one area. You can come out of that stronger, so to speak. And we've talked about the type of surgery repair that he had, which is allowing him to rehab quicker and get back to sport faster. The other thing of that I would say is he's still a young quarterback. This is only his second season, his first full season. And I think we just haven't seen, it takes time for an athlete to get comfortable, I think, obviously in the NFL. And so once you get comfort, once you get a relationship with your offensive players and you get comfortable throwing, you start to see maybe a greater talent, maybe a stronger arm, if you will. But really, it's just coming from just,
be more confident.
Seasoning in the pot has been there, right? Like it's starting to cook and things are starting to come together. And so you're seeing him throw not just with anticipation, but with greater ease, greater confidence. And so now you're seeing the bigger throws. Is that who he's been prior to, or is this as a result of the surgery? I don't know that we'll know that exact answer, but it's beautiful.
That's actually a great point. And that reminds me of like when I was with the New York Jets, right? And it's training camp, preseason, whatever. Or really we can go back to OTAs, and I just remember like thinking so much, right? Like you're thinking so much, it kind of takes the athleticism away from you.
Yeah.
And even if I am a guy who can run, and you see this a lot with like receivers too early on, like you can be a guy who can run fast in a straight line. You can have that speed. You could have showcased that speed a ton in college. But once you get to the pro level and you're thinking so much, you start to play slower. And that could be the case with Brock as well, where now that he's just more confident with what he's saying, he's just like, I'm just going to let it rip. And the balls seem to come out with more confidence. And then maybe that can give the illusion that he's throwing harder. But again, I don't think it will ever confuse him for being a power thrower, but he is throwing very well. Definitely, for sure. Yeah. CJ Gray says, we see the same thing with, I see the same issue with Tua playing in cold weather, rain/wind. And again, Tua is another guy who you would not confuse as a power thrower. The interesting thing is a lot of people blamed him for the lack of downfield targets for Waddle. When Waddle was a rookie, he like turned him into like an 8 yards per catch type guy, which was like crazy. Speedster coming out of Alabama, and then you get Tyreek Hill, and now his, the yards per catch have exploded. Well, I think a lot of it is just the confidence in that player too. And maybe that's something with Brock where just kind of knowing, hey, I just really kind of have to throw it to in the area. I saw what's his name? Kid out of CJ Stroud throw a ball 70 yards in the air, right? Like he threw a pass that traveled 70 yards in the air. We don't necessarily need Brock to do that. But when you can just throw it out there and just have the confidence that I'm just going to throw it as far as I can, this guy's going to come down with it. We saw Brock do that with Brandon Ayuk. That was a beautiful throw outside the numbers against Tampa. We saw Brock do that the week before in Jacksonville to George Kittle, where he just like, I'm just going to throw it out there. Like I don't even have my feet underneath me. And I'm going to, I got pressure in my face. I can't step into this throw. I'm just going to throw it as far out there as I can. And it wasn't a great throw, but it was great in the sense of giving his guy an opportunity to catch the ball. So I do think that's part of it too. The more confidence he starts to have with his players, the less you have to be perfect with every throw. And I think that was Jimmy's issue, and not to bring up Jimmy Garoppolo, but it felt like Jimmy felt like he had to be perfect on his throws downfield. And I think that's why he missed so many. Right now, I mean, some of these throws, the Ayuk one was perfect, but like the George Kittle one, it wasn't a great throw. But when your players make you great, and then you add that to all your other great throws, I think you see a terrific quarterback. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with Brock, who is kind of potentially playing at like an MVP level. So that's the next question.
Yeah.
Is Brock Purdy MVP right now?
Is he MVP? I think again, I've said this earlier in the season, he deserves to be in the conversation. I mean, it's really tough to not have him in the conversation. I mean, the kid is just consistent. We've got results. We're seeing, the processing. He's getting accolades from all kinds of folks, including Steve Young, right? I mean, this kid is going to grow. He's going to get better. Don't know what the ceiling is. His superpower is not the strength in his arm, like you've said, but that's why there's the Justice League. Not every superhero had, the same superpower. So his is processing, and that's really important. This game is a lot of mental aspects of it. It's not just athleticism. And when you have a fast processor that can look at a defense, diagnose, and then feel the confidence to throw the ball, in anticipation, that's a gift. And we're all lucky that he's on our team for sure.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I think I definitely talked about it during the 5-game winning streak to start the season. But I think you can kind of start to kind of pick back up on it now as well. It will be hard to find a quarterback that is functioning at a higher level in their offense than Brock Purdy is functioning in his offense. And obviously, everybody's playmakers aren't created equal. Everybody's offense coordinator, play caller isn't created equal. But within how he's functioning in his offense with his guys is at such a high level. And you can watch football around the league and see some of these other quarterbacks and just like in their offense, they aren't functioning as great. Now, part of that, a lot of people will start, oh, well, look at all the weapons and look at this and that. Hey, forget all that. He is playing at a very high level. So when we start to look at him as potentially MVP, uh, you know, it would be hard to say he should not be in that conversation. Now, another guy we can make to be in that conversation is, in case 49 says, CMC is MVP of the 49ers. So how much of Christian McCaffrey and how well he's playing should we factor into the MVP of Purdy? So is this really a Christian McCaffrey award or is it Brock Purdy? I know everybody's going to lean towards the quarterback. He touches the football every single down, but CMC does have something to say about it. So what are your thoughts? Should this be like co-MVP type things or how do you see it?
Yes, you gave me the out, the co-MVP. I'll take it. It's really tough because the offensive line is really responsible for both of them being successful, right? Like CMC doesn't have these windows and these doors to go through and these lanes open without the offensive line. And then Brock Purdy, I mean, he's just gunning that thing out quick enough that, the offensive line can be good. If it was great, imagine if he had just a little bit more time back there in the pocket. That'd be incredible, right? So it's really hard. This is a team sport. MVPs are really tough, but you'll only hear me say they belong in the conversation. And the other thing I'd say about Brock Purdy is he's still young. This kid is, again, this is his first full season with the 49ers as far as being the QB1. And the only other quarterback in the NFL that I think maybe would deserve a little bit more conversation is CJ Stroud, as he's a rookie coming in. So these are young quarterbacks in a very competitive NFL, and their names are in the same conversations as Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and these big names out there. And these are basically infants. They're young, they're coming in, and just hats off to both of them. I don't know who's going to end up taking this thing home, but they both, Christian McCaffrey is just doing things that have never been seen before, breaking 49er records, which we've had a good run of historic running backs in our franchise. So, can't have one without the other. Peanut butter jelly, I'll take it.
We got 187 in the chat, and he says we have the 22nd ranked O-line. So I think that's a big part of it, right? And this is an actual like kudos to Brock Purdy. I think because of how he plays, and somewhat like Jimmy Garoppolo as well, they play with such timing and rhythm in the offense that it kind of helps offset an offensive line not being great, right? On the other side of the field this weekend, Philadelphia has like the top run pass offense in the league, offensive line, like top of the league. Like, so their quarterback just has more time. Now, some of that, I don't know if that's a threat of the quarterback to run the ball. And everybody knows when you have a quarterback that is a threat to run the ball, they pass rush those guys kind of different. Like, you have to have a different type of discipline in your run lanes. All right. But when I look at Brock, and I throw Jimmy in this too, because it's kind of like just a function of the offense. I saw Jimmy, what was it, 2017? Like, that offensive line was trash. Like, how were they able to win like 5 straight games with Zane Beatles starting that right tackle, but I know, right? Exactly. So, but when you're able to play with timing and rhythm and you understand what your coach is asking and you're able to stare down that gun barrel, even when that pressure's in your face, and make throws and be accurate, I think it offsets an offensive line that isn't good. So I think kudos to Kyle for building an offense that's more predicated on this, because not every offense isn't predicated on that, right? Brock Purdy, like even in this offense, he went to an offense, if you look at his scouting report, that works exceptionally well for him Like it was like he needs an offense that's run based and relies on play action, timing, and rhythm. And then he goes to a team that is run based, relies on play action, timing, and rhythm and accuracy, right? So he went to an offense that suited some of the things that he was able to do well and capitalize on. And then when you see him actually like in pressure in his face, and it's like, it doesn't really bother me. I'm still gonna make this throw. I'm still gonna be accurate on this throw. I think he does that at a very high level. So maybe Kyle knows something where it's like, you know what? Maybe everybody wants us to have this great offensive line, but if we have a quarterback that just trust what I'm saying, trust that it's gonna be there, and throw the ball with timing and rhythm. If the O line isn't great, it's not gonna matter. Like you're gonna be fine as long as you do these things. And I don't know if he's saying that or not, but if he is, that is 100% what Brock Purdy is doing right now. And I think it helps that hey, the offensive line not great, but it's fine because of the way the offense is, we're still gonna be okay.
So two things. One, by offensive line, I mean Trent Williams. Because most of the runs I think that occur for CMC are on the left side, right? And so when he wasn't there, I still think that was a big part of the reason why we lost those couple of games. Two, we might not have what you're saying. We don't necessarily need a great offensive line, except for when your quarterback gets injured in the NFC Championship game. So,
which in case you might not want to put a backup third string tight end blocking the number one edge rusher or the number 2 sack guy in the NFL. But yeah.
I was going to say, I have oh my gosh, George Kittle in my fantasy league. I'm probably going to bench him because I feel like all he's going to do is be a blocker as extra protection.
So I have said this, and I said this on I don't know if I tweeted or maybe I just said it to my bro when after the Thursday night game, Thanksgiving. I will not pick any 49er player on Underdog Fantasy outside of Chris McCaffrey, because these guys, there's no like some players you just know they're gonna get the ball, like the quarterback's gonna target them. Now whether they end up getting the yards necessary or not, that's one thing or another. But like they will have the opportunities. Like that's most teams. Most teams have like a couple guys where it's like you will get your opportunities to make plays. With the 49ers, you just don't know. And for 3 straight weeks, I saw George Kittle like killing it. Then I finally throw him in like, all right, he's been killing it. I think he'll get 50 yards this game. And it's like, no, we're not going to throw to him today. Sorry, Crock. I'm like, what the hell, man? So I am done playing George Kittle. I feel like George Kittle is like probably the worst fantasy tight end to have because he can have 120 yards in one game. Then can have 3 straight games of only getting 2 targets. And you just don't know. Or he can do what he just did, which for 3 straight weeks, he's having damn near 100 yards, or it was like, I think it's actually 4 straight weeks of over 70 yards. And then the one time I'm like, okay, I think I'm seeing a trend here. They're like, nope, sorry, Crock. He ain't going to hit on this one. And it made me miss out on a decent amount of money. So we see some guys in the chat say, put Kittle on Reddick during play action, and I promise you makes Reddick pay. The tough thing is, I mean, just George Kittle is such a really good pass catching tight end. I feel like there has to be a different way. Like there has to be another way. Like to block up a terrific edge rusher without having to utilize George Kittle. Like there has to be a way.
Yeah, he is. He's our second biggest receiver, just based on numbers this year. Yeah. Brandon Ayuk has 881 yards. He has 667 yards. So just throwing that out there. And we said that the Eagles defense is not as great at pass rush. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how
not as good as last year, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, again, my guy, Chris Roscoe's, he says that their defense is it's bad this year. And I don't know about if it's bad. He's like, they've allowed, I don't know, 5 300-yard passers. Now, some of that is teams maybe having to throw the ball, right? Like if you, and I've been surprised by like, let's say 2019 49ers, how historically great they were against the pass. And it's really weird because when you're just beating up on teams and dominating teams, typically they have to throw more. Like, so when teams are able to throw more and you're still stopping them, like you're just a great pass defense. Um, I think right now teams are like, okay, we're gonna have to throw the ball to either win this game or get back in this game, and that's where they're picking up more of their yards. So I don't know, like, is it like garbage time? I would have to sit and watch every game. Is it garbage time yards that teams are getting against Philly in the air, or are they just not as good? But I do know as far as sacks go, they had 70 sacks last year. The 49ers were top 10 and had 44. I mean, that's a huge gap, right, for a team
Yeah.
to have 25 more sacks than the 49ers, who a lot of people say 49ers have a solid pass rush last year. So the
Well,
Eagles don't
overall
have that
defense,
pass
Eagles
rush.
are ranked. No, overall defense, Eagles are ranked 19th. 49ers are ranked 5th. But then, and pass, if you're looking at pass defense, we're ranked 12th, and they are ranked, where is it? 29th. And then
Oh,
rushing,
that's
we're
not
right
good.
there next to each other. Rushing defense, we're ranked 2nd. Eagles are ranked 3rd. So that might be
What
where.
about, did you say run defense? What did you say about run defense?
Run defense, we're 2nd, they're 3rd. So their run
Mm,
defense is where they get most of their defensive plays from.
interesting.
I'm
So
actually
that's where,
defensively, I have a question for you. What are you
yeah.
looking at from our secondary? How do you think our secondary is going to handle?
So I mean, I think the world of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I think
Yeah.
both of those guys are explosive, dynamic guys. AJ Brown doesn't have to get separation. He's one of those guys just throw it up in the area. Devontae Smith actually has a lot of that in his game too, and I think because he's a smaller, slimmer receiver, a lot of people are like, it doesn't do this, or he's so skinny, blah blah. But like, I remember when he was coming out, I'm like, this guy plays as good at the catch point as anyone. I think we've been seeing that in the NFL. So these are definitely dynamic receivers that can win in different ways. A terrific run after catch with AJ Brown. Uh, I think if you can frustrate AJ early, that might help. Now again, he just might not care, and just it only takes one catch from a guy like him. But Hurts will give those guys opportunities. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing is really just getting, and you want this with all quarterbacks, but again, with the 49ers, I don't know how much the pressure just bothers Brock throughout a game. You can pressure him, and I think he's still fine. With Hurts, a lot of these games have been a little weird at times, and their offenses look stagnant at times, and it's all on guys moving him off of his spot. And he's very uncomfortable when you do that. So I saw it against the Chiefs. I saw it against, like last game, Bills early on. I thought the game was kind of over. I was traveling back from Las Vegas. My wife and I, we were watching the game like propped up on the phone, and I fell asleep maybe throughout the third quarter. I woke up all of a sudden. Philly had 28 points. I'm like, what the hell happened? So, it is a team that you can hold down and you can pressure their quarterback and you can try to stop them that way. But at some point, like they will figure out a way to start to score. So I think for the 49ers, it's playing 4 quarters of like, this has to be with your defensive line. This has to be your the best version of you. Like this has to be, your best pass rush. This has to be your best game plan. And a lot of it's going to be predicated on moving Hurts off of his spot, which I think, is a lot easier said than done.
And very clean, because the Bills suffered a lot of self-inflicted wounds. A lot of calls were made that put them in a bad situation. So I think we just have to make sure that we don't just play as clean as we possibly can. I'm not going to touch the ref situation that have been out there. I do like the term refereagles. That's my new favorite word, right behind
Yeah.
Thomas. So
Well, my thing is this, like, it is tough. It's tough to play against a team that is terrific and the referees, but you can't let that be the reason. Like, you just can't. You have to figure out for yourself. Like, some of those things, like, everybody's complaining about this horse collar, and I watched the play, and I watched it live. That's not horse collar. But it's like, oh, look, this is right in front of the refs. Look how he now if you want to call maybe roughing the passer because he slammed Josh Allen to the ground,
right.
then okay, I'll give you that. But they're like, oh, this is horse collar. I'm like, no, horse collar when a guy is running away from you You grab him by the back of his collar and you yank him down, right? This guy grabbed the front and the back of the
Right.
collar and kind of like slammed him down from there. Like that's not horse collar. So that's my thing where people are counting on the refs to bail you out in what potentially can be considered a close call one way or the other. You have to make the play. Will we be having this conversation if hell and Bills maybe you should get a stop before
Right.
before the end of regulation? Oh, okay. Well, he get you. Maybe he just kicked a 59-yard field goal to go into
Right.
overtime. Hey, maybe in overtime, if your quarterback and your receiver are on the same page and you don't overthrow him when he's wide open in the end zone, maybe you don't deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
there are all these things that I understand you want to, but I always look at like, what can I do better, right?
Right.
You might understand this. You're married. I'm married. I don't look at these outside things. Well, if this didn't happen, then no, like no. Let me have this conversation with my wife. Let me see, what is my part in this? Like,
Right.
what am I responsible for? How can I help? Especially if something that we have no control over. And I feel like in the game, like it's the same way. You can't control the reps, but what are you in control of?
Right.
And it's executing what you do and not being on different pages than your receiver or your receiver being on a different page than the quarterback when he's wide open in the end zone.
Yeah.
Like we're not even talking about the refs if they come down with that. So I do understand that a lot of people want to talk about the refs and maybe they're bad in this game or good in this game, whatever. But I always feel like, what is my part in this, and how can I, overcome it? So the referee goals or whatever, which is funny and clever.
I love that name. It
Uh,
just sounds good coming off the mouth. Refereeable.
I I look at this game like 49ers, you have to execute. 49ers, you can't turn the ball over.
Correct.
49ers, you can't give up the explosive passing plays downfield to AJ Brown, or you have to limit it. Hey, Dre Greenlaw, don't face mask guys. Dre Greenlaw, don't hit quarterbacks late. Control what you can control, and that's going to give you hopefully the results that you're looking for. But if you're relying on the refs to make plays or call a fair game or whatever,
Yeah.
you're likely setting yourself up for failure.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
So do you think there's going to be, Huff's out for the season? And so our secondary has got that little bit of a deficit. Do you think that's going to be a problem this week? Or do you think that we're going to step up, the next man up is going to take care of business?
I think that I've always leaned on the 49ers having really good coaching. And for whatever reason, and I don't know, Steve Wilkes has like been under fire. But I think he's done a terrific job coaching this defense this year. More times than not. Couple games bad, Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, I get it. But outside of that, I think he's done a terrific job. Uh, I feel like the coaching remains good, and these guys will be ready to go. And you're going to have this young guy, Jair Brown, coached up. I think he understands what he has to do. I think he has a lot of good guys around him that are going to help him along the way. So, I know a lot of people are worried about the secondary. I'm not, especially if the defensive line does their job. So I think it starts up front. A team that has a terrific offensive line, you got to get, figure out different ways to get pressure, whether it's stunts or different ways that you're, maybe sending simulated pressures. However you got to do it, you got to get them uncomfortable. And if you do that, I think it helps the back end guys. So I'm not really too worried about this defense. But I also will say that in the event that the defense does not get the necessary stops that you feel are needed to just blow out a team, and all of a sudden you got to go blow for blow with them, I will blame the offense if they can't do it. I mean, and I think everybody is very aware of that. I'm
Yeah.
like that. I think it's an offensive-driven league. I think that these other offenses are really good. I think you're playing against an offense that puts up 28 points. So if they put up 28 points, then you need to put up 29. And that's what's going to be my mindset.
Love it. We're going to do this thing. I can't wait. Is it Sunday yet? I woke up, went to the gym this morning, and they had the nerve to have Rocky on. And I'm looking around like, who's the Eagles fan that put Rocky on in this game? I'm wearing my 49er sweatshirt. I'm like, yes, read it.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. So, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, let's do this. It's game time. Listen, if y'all are built like me, you got maybe a motor mouth and you might pop off, stay at home. Let's be safe about this.
All
And let's
right.
take care of business.
I almost forgot. Here we go. We got Brad Brown in the chat. Sorry it took me so long to get to this. He says, sneaky problem are centers consistent low snaps. So again, we talking about the referees and things like that. Let's talk about, hey, you got bad weather. Let's not compound on the issues by having low snaps, right? Let's not add to the issues by giving bad snaps to our quarterback, right? Third down, don't snap a ball and then it stops the drive, and all of a sudden Philly goes down and scores. You know, you got to figure it out and get these snaps done right. I hope the 49ers practice with wet footballs, excuse me, pause. Um, I have heard someone tell me that Kyle doesn't really believe in practicing with wet football. So I don't know. I haven't heard Kyle say that, but that's what somebody has said, that he doesn't think is necessary. So
Just so you know, every time I hear pause from anyone or in like somebody says something and in my mind I say pause, it's your voice. Like it is your voice. I hear pause. We
oh
didn't even talk
man,
about tush push. Are we going to be the team to finally stop the tush push?
nobody's stopping the tush push. You just
Okay.
gotta hope you don't get them in that
You don't think we're
situation.
going to do it? Our
Like,
defense? You don't think our defense is going to do that?
no, nobody's stopping it.
All
They are
right. So
too good at it. Like
they
I've
are.
seen teams around people. I mean, in college, I've seen in high school. I've seen a lot of people try it, and at times it's successful. I mean, the regular quarterback sneak has been successful. I have never seen anything as dominant as Philly doing the tush push. That is
Oh,
the
it's
most
dominant.
dominant thing I've ever seen. I mean, he's literally getting 4 yards every time. And the crazy thing is, it could be 31. They'll do it, and if you stop them there, they're just gonna do it again, and you're not stopping them twice. It's
Okay,
one of
I'll
the
give
most
you we're
dominant
not
things I've
stopping
ever
them
seen.
twice, but I have enough. I actually think I have enough faith in our defense. I'm going to say they will stop the tush push at least once.
All right, uh, we'll have to do like a giveaway if that happens. All right. That's gonna do it for myself, Coach Dezi. Coach Dezi, let everyone know, because you are on social media. Y'all can react with, or you guys can interact with Coach Dezi on Twitter. So let them know where they can find you.
I am Coach_Dezi on Twitter and Coach Dezi on Instagram. Let's trash talk together. Whoop whoop.
All right, let's trash talk together. But until next time, we'll see y'all. Peace.